I'm John Stairs. You're listening to Topics Under the Stairs. As always, I'm joined by Ryan and Mark.
Hello there.
How we doing?
Back together, boys.
Back together.
Yeah.
Back in the saddle again. It's been a couple weeks. I've been in the motherland, Italy. It was beautiful. We'll chat about that momentarily. Before we get to all that stuff, we have two very special guests with us. So between many people that we know of mutual contacts, a lot of people have said, you got to have Satori and Cody on. You got to have Satori and Cody on. And we finally made it happen.
Hi.
So I'm pumped about it. It's great to meet you both.
Well,
Thanks for having us.
So we're going to talk about paranormal investigation, haunted objects, how you both got into this industry, and more.
Okay. Perfect. We're
Talk
excited.
about whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, so I'm excited to learn all about it. We were discussing before the show started, none of us have been on a paranormal investigation, so it'll be awesome to hear about how that goes and what you find and your methods and all those
yeah.
I was
things.
going to say, not officially, but I've definitely been in some places that were haunted.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be there.
Unintentionally, yeah.
Unintentionally, yeah.
We'll take you on an investigation. You just have to be brave enough.
That would be fun. But yeah, before we get rolling, this episode is brought to you by Revival Motoring. You can check out revivalmotoring.com for the info on all four shows. Us here at Topics Under the Stairs, our friends at Revival Motoring, Loose is Fast, and the archived episodes of Talking Motorcycles. Besides that, you can check out the merch store. If you want to support the network at all, any little bit helps. We do this for free. We create many hours of content a week for you, whether it be YouTube or what you listen to on Spotify in the car. And we don't charge you for it, but it does cost money to do. And if you want to help out, you can share the show, post a screenshot of you listening or watching, post a link of where you listen to it. If you're on Apple Podcasts, you can leave a comment. All that stuff helps a bunch, and we greatly, greatly appreciate it. If you share it and tag us, we will always share it. If you have some ideas about things you want to hear about us talk about or guest suggestions, send them in. Any help producing the show, we greatly, greatly appreciate. So thanks, everybody, for doing that. If you want to help a little bit more, we do have a special system called the Bucks for the Boys system. Bucks for the Boys. That's the value for value method here at Revival Motoring. That you can send a sustainable donation, a couple bucks a month, skip a coffee, and it helps pay the bills here. It helps fix the broken microphone stands that we have that will eventually sag to the table halfway through the show. It might even buy an adjustable boom mic so our second guest doesn't have to hold his own microphone.
I looks pretty comfortable with it. He looks like he likes it. Yeah.
So we thanks all the B4B current subscribers. And if you are subscribed to that, you're entered in a contest every month that the Revival Motoring Show will pull a winner. I think it's the first Thursday, or the first Wednesday of the month.
Wednesday of the month, yeah.
And you will be sent a prize pack. And even if you don't win that prize pack, you'll be randomly sent goodies throughout the year, whether it be stickers, air fresheners, some little giveaways that we get. So once again, thanks everybody for that. And check out our friends at the other shows. And thanks for listening. You guys got any callbacks?
I don't.
No?
I do.
Like you're surprised.
So a couple weeks ago, Audrine, the Car Museum in Newport, had
Yes.
their annual Concours d'Elegance. I still don't know exactly how to say
Concours d'Elegance.
that. Yeah, but I don't say the S. No one ever says the S.
Elegant.
It's Concours.
Concours.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's like a contest to see how douchey everyone can pronounce it. But anyway.
That was like when I worked at Dunkin' Donuts in high school, and somebody would come in with the worst Boston accent. I'd be like, "Yeah, can I get a medium ice extra and a croissant?" It's like, now you're French, dude. I love a sausage, egg, and cheese croissant.
Yeah, it's so good. But anyway, we were able to obtain some passes. So me, my brother, and old man Tom went down there.
Nice.
And we checked it out. It was a good time. Spent a couple hours walking around the grounds. There was some absolutely ridiculous cars and some stuff that someone had a tricycle from 1899 and it was just a big tricycle with a
I didn't even know they had wheels then.
right with like a 2-cylinder motor under it, and just this thing. Like if you say, I don't know, it was wild that someone figured that out in 1899.
Wow.
And then a bunch of like. They had the BMW CSL 2.0, that like race car. That was there.
Yeah.
Bro, that thing is ridiculous. They had these new Cadillac super luxury electric vehicles. They are the biggest things I've ever seen. Like bigger than a Hummer, bigger than everything. The amount these things have to weigh 14 to 18,000 pounds. Like
My callback is a direct opposite of this, which is great.
Yeah. They're just the biggest cars I've ever seen. Like you get in the back seat. It's not even a limo, but you get in the back. Well, not that you could get in them, but you can see. You'd have to crawl to the seat to get to the back.
Yeah.
Just monstrous cars. But yeah, no, they'd have everything from, like I said, tricycles from the 1800s to
Wild modern
super
stuff.
electric stuff and everything in between. So that was fun.
Nice.
Yeah, we ended up, we hung out there for a couple hours, and then, can only take so much. Saw Jay Leno. That was cool.
I was going to say, Jay Leno must have
He
been
was there,
Yeah.
yeah. Saw the guy that did Chasing Classic Cars.
Yep.
Saw Wayne Carini that used to do the, I think that was him, right? Chasing Classic Cars was Wayne Carini? No. Chasing
that
Classic
was
Cars,
I know the one you're talking
Chasing
about.
Classic Cars was the other guy with the big mustache.
Yeah.
Wayne Carini was there. He's out of Connecticut. F50 Motorsports or whatever.
Yep. He does all like the Dino Ferraris and stuff.
Yeah. He did all kind of. They were all just walking around. It's really cool that in a situation like that, Nick, nobody really bothers those people. They're there to whatever, and it's just a bunch because it's everyone from them to like some dude wearing flip flops and cargo shorts.
Yeah.
And nobody really bothers them, which is cool. They just let them do their thing. But yeah, no, it was a good time.
Nice. Yeah, my only callback is Italy was sick as expected.
Yeah.
Vehicle size comment. I rented a car there for the first time. The last time we didn't drive, and this time I was like, I really want to drive there. It's so nuts to drive there because people just. I was telling Mark on the way here, like stop signs are a loose suggestion. You can just pass at any time. When somebody doesn't think you're going fast enough, they just lay on the horn and flash their high beams at you. And,
So it's like 195.
Yeah. Oh yeah, but like 10 times worse.
Gotcha.
And I knew we were going to the Amalfi Coast, and the roads are very narrow there. So I rented a Fiat Panda, typical Italian car. Figured win in Italy, win in Rome, do the right thing. So we rented the Fiat. I wish it was even smaller than it was because those roads were bananas. It's like the
Something
windiest.
in line where she says behind you.
Yeah, the windiest, crazy mountain roads, and there's full-size buses on them, and they just honk when you're coming around a corner, and it's like, hey, I'm coming. And if you don't move, you're just going to get sideswiped by a bus. And it's nuts.
And if that happens, they just keep going.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 100%. There's just every car in there was completely destroyed. There was not one car that wasn't sideswiped, basically. It was nuts.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
That's insane.
Yeah, so it was an experience.
It's like every car looks like it came out of
So,
a Jason
so renting a
Bourne.
car, what's the policy of damages?
Well, I always buy the insurance policy when I rent
Yeah.
a car. So I don't know.
Was the car fucked up when
No,
you got it?
no. I mean, it had a couple little dents, but
Yeah.
I don't think the car. It was too nice that I assume it's never been to Amalfi before.
Yeah.
But yeah, I managed to get through it unscathed. So
Mr. Stairs, we have
Yeah.
this brand new car for you.
yeah,
Comes back and dumps it out of a paper bag. Like, this
Yeah.
is what's left. Yeah.
everything's a stick. Even the buses are stick.
Yeah.
The vans, everything's diesel. It's awesome.
That's what I love about Portugal.
Yeah, exactly. Same idea. So it was cool. I love tiny cars, so I was all about it. I'll ramble for hours about Italy when we have boring guests that aren't gonna be here for long. So
Well, I'll tell you, we always get asked the question, what is your dream, haunted location to investigate?
yeah,
And, the Colosseum in Rome has always been at the top of my list, and, the castles in Ireland.
Yep.
But just, so much history there. I mean, a lot of the theories are based on, wherever there's more history, of course, there's more haunting. You can't have a haunting without the history. So that whole area has always been the top of our list. And there's so many reports that come out of there as well.
oh yeah,
We actually have something in the museum that was sent from France, I believe, and it's a witch whistle, and it's made of bone, and it has a bird's foot, shoved in the end of it,
Wow.
And it was made to kind of ward off the bird flu that was happening.
But we also have items from, we have cursed scrolls from Greece. We have all sorts of things like that from those areas of the world.
Yeah, so I mean, the whole haunted object idea kind of dates back to that area, which
That's
is really
awesome.
neat.
And it makes, it's like obviously in school you learn about these places and it's like you hear the dates. And then it's like once you're there and you're like, oh yeah, this is like a Etruscan tomb we found under this building when we were building it. And it's from, 1500 or something. And you're standing in this room and it's like, why are houses that were built in like 92 falling down here?
Right.
And I'm in a room that was built in the 1500s right now. Like,
Yeah.
what are we doing wrong?
Yeah.
So many things.
And there's also
It's a
like,
whole different show, John.
and there's just like mummified bodies everywhere. Like,
Yeah.
like we were in Cortona and they bring you into this church and it's like, oh yeah, that's, so-and-so, she was basically like the Mother Teresa of this church community. And it's like, when they point at it, it's like, oh no, this is literally like a glass box with a body in it in the middle of a church. It's insane.
And you wonder why there's more hauntings over there. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
Cassie and I were in just like walking through this town Tremoli that we found near one of our Airbnbs, and same thing. We go in this church and then you go in the basement and there's just like boxes on the wall. And she's like, what do you think that is? And I'm like, I think those are tombs. And it's like, oh yeah, no, sure enough, those are tombs.
Yeah. The cultures over there too, like the way that they preserve the bodies and they show them, because death is not such a negative thing in other cultures.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's, you go to those places and it's so different for us here, but there it's just
Yeah, we just
normal.
want it to go away. Like, I don't want to see this anymore.
Yeah, sadly.
But then we have all the Halloween decoration stuff. They don't have any of that.
Right.
Like that.
Oh, right.
You saw like one.
Well, when
place
you've got a
made of that
body on
Halloween.
display for
Yeah, I think-
365 days a year, do you really need a skeleton?
Yeah, I don't think you need to do much more.
You don't need a
Much
12-foot
more- yeah,
skeleton
you
from
do
Home
not need a
Depot.
12-foot Home Depot
Yeah.
skeleton.
Yeah.
Did you buy the giant skeleton chicken from Tractor Supply yet?
No, I want that, and I want
I
the.
bet
They
you
have
do.
a dog. They have a
We gotta
giant
wait
dog
till
too.
November 1st and try to get it on retail.
That's true.
Discount.
That's true. What else do you have this day in history?
Yeah, of course.
All right, we'll hit that quick, and then we can just. I say skip the news.
That's fine.
Well, actually, I do want to talk about the one you
Yeah,
talked about.
I was gonna say maybe not skip them all.
Yeah,
that was
we'll
pretty
do that
insane.
one. We'll do that first.
All right.
Breaking news.
All right, so I was gonna skip the news, but Ryan told me this news story when we were at dinner, and it's insane.
I'm gonna send this to you real quick, just so
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
in case you can pull it up.
I should be able to pull it up.
So basically, I was driving to work yesterday, Wednesday morning, and I was driving down through like the Cranston area, and there was a bunch of black smoke coming up from an area and coming across 95.
Did you text it to me?
I sent it to you on Instagram because I don't have it in.
Oh, yeah. I got you. Okay, I'll pull it up.
So, come to find out, when I got to work, I was talking to a kid I was working with. Apparently, the Applebee's at the Garden City Center went up. So that
Yes.
burned to the ground.
Oh, yeah?
Oh yeah, that's a total loss.
Oh, my gosh.
Everything was saved, and the literal fire captain was like, because we make them put rated walls in between these businesses, that's the reason everything else didn't burn. So they
No
were able to do
kidding.
that. So that's pretty cool. But the other
Send
thing
it
was,
to the topics page, not my personal page.
okay. So the other thing was sorry. All right. So I was telling the kid I work with, I do fire prevention stuff for work, so that's kind of relevant. He's like, oh yeah, there's another place in Providence that
Is there music?
There is. I hear it.
it's your.
And David Bowie.
That's your phone.
It's not my phone, is it? I guess it is my phone. I'm sorry.
I thought this was haunted.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
How fitting.
Starting off strong.
Yeah. So, someplace other in Providence also burned that night, and then a $9 million mansion in Newport burned. Not Newport, in Portsmouth burned down. But if you watch the video, watch from there's like a little streak right there.
Yeah.
Space debris is what took that house out.
Are you serious?
Yep, that's what they're saying. It looks like a goddamn missile strike.
Yeah.
That was an alien missile strike.
Right. But if you watch, you'll
Space
see
debris.
that go, and then you watch like two smaller embers go into the yard. Like
Oh yeah,
right
yeah.
there, and there was like one more.
Yeah.
It says thankfully nobody was injured, right? Because I think that's what it says to the right.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
See, if that house didn't blow up, like I would be like, that's just a mosquito on the Ring camera.
Right.
That's what it looks like. It looks like a bug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mom's always sending me like videos from her Ring camera. It's like, look at all these orbs. And I'm like, those are gnats.
Orbs.
Sadly.
Yeah.
Sadly.
I think nobody's look at all the squirrels, like or
Yeah.
whatever those
Yeah.
things are running for their lives.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
That must have been really hard to explain. Yeah, my man.
Well, so I was hoping Craig was going to be in the chat because
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
question was, does the homeowner's
What does homeowners
cover
insurance
space
cover
debris?
for space debris?
Yeah,
I mean, acts of God. What is this?
I think so. Wouldn't that qualify as that?
You would think so.
yeah, it's an act of
It has to be. Yeah. Yeah.
Imagine explaining that to your friends.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
we
just
can't
a
have a
natural
party.
occurrence that
My
you
house
can't.
was taken out by a space debris.
Right.
It helps that there's video.
Did they only come up with space debris because of the video?
What do you mean?
Like they determined that space debris.
I don't know which.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was chicken or the egg, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what they said it was space debris.
I imagine the video is what gave
Yeah,
them the space
right.
debris answer.
Yeah.
I mean, that, like I said, that looked like a goddamn missile strike, but
Yeah.
Crazy.
Same.
Wow.
that was pretty wild.
I would not believe somebody if they told me that happened to
No.
their house.
Unless
No.
you
I'd
had
be like,
video,
"Come
like
on."
that's the only way I believe that.
Like, just be honest. Tell me you don't want me to come over. Like, that's what I would say.
Just say you're tired. Yeah. So what had happened was aliens. They threw rocks at the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, okay,
Okay.
it's fine.
Like, whatever, dude. We'll do something
Tell
next
me you
week.
don't want me to come over, please.
Oh man.
This day in history.
Yeah.
Yeah, my news story isn't good. It just was like tied in with a funny story. So I'll do this really quick. So when we got to Florence, we had some friends and family meeting us there the first night, and Eric that was on the show, Sarah's husband Eric that came in to talk about the real estate stuff that he does.
Yep.
He just like read ingredients and was like, "Cool, yeah, I want that." And it was like he didn't read that. It was like tartar. And they literally just brought out like a pound of it looked like the pound pack of red meat from the supermarket, and they just like dumped it on the plate.
Oh my god.
And it's like a very common thing there. They just eat everything raw. It's so weird to me. And like I like sushi and
They're
stuff.
used to that.
Yeah, but like red meat, come on.
Yeah, I don't think
know.
so, man.
Yeah.
No, I'm all right. That's not my thing.
No.
I told you when I worked in the deli, the lady used to just grab handfuls of raw hamburger and eat it.
Yeah, it's
She was
so
like-
weird.
God.
Like I was in my 20s, she was in her 50s, and she just walked by and was like,
Yeah, this
I
news
was like,
story.
I can't be watching you do that. Like I like a medium hamburger, but it's got to be cooked at some point.
Rare bear meat gathering gives 10 people parasitic worms.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Oh.
So yeah, it's like all you have to do to
All
not
these people
get
with the
parasites.
gangbangers, you know, they eat all this weird meat.
Yeah, it's like you just have to cook it to 165 degrees. Like
Right.
eat all the weird meat you want, but just
Yeah.
heat it up a little
Yeah.
bit. And it kills all the bad stuff. But yeah, so like 10 people got like roundworm infections. And yeah, it's like
That's so gross.
just cook it.
is, yeah.
Like, I get it.
Yeah.
You want to do something like that. That's fine. You do whatever you want, but I couldn't do it.
No.
Just the texture of like the raw. I couldn't do that.
All
No.
the game dinners I've politely said no to over the years. Just like, oh no, sorry man, I can't make that. I apologize.
Oh, I remember that. The raw
Oh
deli
my
meat,
God,
Christine.
Steve-O worked with me. That's right, Christine.
Oh, that's so funny.
That's where I met him like 30 years ago.
Oh my
Big shouts
God.
to Christine. I hope she doesn't have roundworm.
Yeah.
Sending thoughts and prayers.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Oh man.
You got your
I do.
this day in history?
Sure.
I just wanted to play the sound. I,
know.
didn't even care
I
about the
know.
segment.
I know you don't.
In history.
Jesus Christ. 1933, United Airlines Boeing 247 exploded. They never found out or came up with any reason or cause.
1930.
Space dust. There's just no camera footage. That's probably why.
Yeah, that's probably why.
Oh man.
Yeah,
Makes
kinda
sense.
nuts.
Probably space dust.
1948, world's first international pacemaker was implanted.
Jesus, did you have to drag around like a machine to keep it going?
No, I can't even imagine what it was like. My friend got a defibrillator put in when we were in like junior high,
Oh no shit.
and that's like
Yeah.
that was a huge box. Like he was so we used to tease him because it like looked like a
'Cause you
cable,
could-
kids
looked
are
like
so
a black
mean. Yeah,
box
right.
from like cable and stuff.
Yeah. Hey, you get HBO in that thing?
Yeah. 1956, the first perfect game in Major League Baseball World Series was.
So that's like a blowout. Like, you know, no points on the other side.
Right. Yep. 1959, people on Earth get the first glimpse
know
of the
sports
dark
much.
side of the moon.
Ooh,
Oh.
Yeah.
that's cool.
That's neat.
1996, Fox News broadcast for the first time. And 1975, the first episode of Saturday Night Live aired.
Nice.
Oh, that's super cool.
That's
I like
neat.
this
Did
segment.
you see this?
Yeah, it's a fun one.
There's a new documentary about.
I know. I saw. I can't wait.
I haven't seen it. It's a 2-hour like movie.
Yeah.
About just that first show and how it took
Yeah,
off.
I can't
Oh,
wait to
that's
It's
watch
like
it.
the
the
hourly
actors and stuff.
What's that?
The actors that are playing.
Yes,
Yeah,
correct.
yeah.
Yeah. That's why you're seeing everyone dressed up as Saturday Night Live original
that's
cast
cool.
members. Yeah.
Fun fact: tonight is the full moon.
Oh, cool. Yes.
I don't know.
that.
I left this morning. I thought it was crashing into the earth because the thing was monstrous.
Yeah.
Spooky.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
Mercury's in Gatorade or whatever today.
Close enough.
Yeah. Let's just dive on into our
Let's do
main
it.
topic. Shouts to everybody watching the live stream. There's quite a few of you, and jump in the comments. And if you have a question that I'm not asking because I'm not thinking of good questions, just ask it away, and if we get to it, we get to it. So like I said, we have Satori and Cody with us, and you've both been in this industry of paranormal investigating and hauntings and what have you for quite a while now.
Yeah.
Why don't you give us a rundown of how you get into that?
Sure. Well, I'm disappointed we didn't get any intro music. So
Yeah, I don't
Guest
have.
intro music.
I know. I should
We
make
should do guest intro
There you
music.
go.
That is a great point.
But then I'd want it to be like personalized, and then then there's the whole problem with YouTube. You have to like make music.
Well, we're just gonna put
Yeah.
the thought in your mind, a little complaint.
Yeah.
Right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Exactly. We'll put that in the suggestions box.
Well, we have two totally separate stories. I grew up in a house in the North Attleboro area of Massachusetts, and in this house, the first floor lived my Italian American grandparents. So very Catholic, did not talk about ghosts at all. And upstairs was myself and my parents, an only child, and I was around 7, 8 years old. I remember going to sleep one night in my room, waking up not feeling well, going into my parents' bedroom, asking to spend the night there. I remember crawling in between my mom and dad, twisting and turning. Couldn't fall asleep, so finally I opened my eyes, and what I saw looked to be about 10 men circling the bed. They were going through the wall on the left side of the headboard, kind of gliding around the bed, going through the wall on the right side of the headboard, and would always, keep their eyes locked on me. Some of them just had holes for eyes. Some were holding masks up to their face, all mumbling this same thing that I couldn't understand. Freaked me out, scared the hell out of me. I remember trying to wake my parents up. They wouldn't wake up. I ended up pulling the covers over my head and just hoping they would go away.
I was going to
They
say,
did.
this sounds like we had someone on that did a lot of sleep paralysis stuff, and this sounds similar to what people see during sleep paralysis episodes.
Yeah, so it absolutely could have been. So I never saw anything like that again. But then other things started happening. I remember my grandparents would be, babysitting me on the first floor, and my parents would be at work upstairs, and nobody would be there. And it would sound like somebody broke in, clear as day. I remember my grandfather grabbing a bat and running up the stairs, hoping to, knock out whoever
It was
was broken
validating
in.
what you're hearing. He was
Yeah.
hearing it too. Yeah.
And he gets up there, and there's nothing wrong. The doors are still locked. So little things like that started happening that even made them start scratching their heads like, wait a minute, something might be going on here.
Yeah.
So that kind of blew the door open as to, what was going on. I wanted to learn more about what I had seen. And that's how most people get involved in this stuff. They have some experience that kind of turns them onto it. And then that's what, gets them interested in it for the rest of their lives, trying to figure out, is this stuff real? Does life exist after you die? All the big questions. And then once you start to answer those questions, 10 more questions pop up. So it's just like this, never-ending cycle as to what's going on. Now, Satori, on the other hand, totally different story.
People like to joke and say that I cheated, and that's how I got into the paranormal field. So before I was even born, my dad, Jason Hawes, he founded a team called TAPS, the Atlantic Paranormal Society, in 1990. And he started going out to local investigations. He started making the newspaper as somebody that was finding logical explanations for a lot of hauntings. He was, disproving some hauntings, as well as at the same time sort of proving that there is paranormal activity that you can't explain, even though you're trying to debunk it.
Yeah. Debunking it is initially the first step, right? That's like the idea.
Absolutely. So when the team started to really take off, people were visiting the website, the TAPS website. Cases started like blowing up. Everybody was contacting about cases. Then he got approached about a television show. And he started Ghost Hunters in 2004. And so growing up, I just grew up around my dad being a ghost hunter. And I thought that was completely normal because I had known nothing else. But of course, the kids at school.
Yeah, you have like career day, like,
Yeah.
all right, bring your parents in and we'll talk about their jobs.
Like, Dad can't make it, he's ghost hunting. Like that, you know. So it definitely drew some odd looks. But I always saw my dad helping people. And I was so young to even I didn't understand the TV side of things. So I was like, I want to be like Dad. Dad, take me to investigations, everything you can like that. And when I became old enough, I finally said, Dad, I'm still obsessed with this. Like, let me just go on an investigation. And he's like, okay, you're old enough now. So
What was old enough?
Me. I was
What age was old enough?
like 18, 17,
Oh, okay.
18.
Okay.
And
If like 12, 13, like, close enough. Come on.
no,
Yeah.
at like 12, 13, I was begging my dad to at least tag along and see what was going on, you know, at like events and stuff. And when I finally got old enough, I joined the TAPS home team. We, you know, did some investigations. I met Cody along the way. And from there, we just were where we are now. So that's really what got me started. So we've been going for a while now.
Yeah. I had, you know, when I was about 16 or 17, Ghost Hunters, you know, that was a thing, and I was watching that every week. So it's kind of surreal that all this turned out the way it did.
Cody got rejected from the TAPS home team first.
I had sent an email, and I was like, oh, they're in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
And I just want to, you know, I'm 16. I was like, I just want to come and watch, and, you know, I'll put the batteries in your equipment, whatever you want me to do.
Yeah, exactly.
So I emailed, and they emailed back and say, no, we're all set. And I was like, damn it. So I ended up joining another local team in the Attleboro area, and I was with them for a little while, and then I joined another team, and the first case I go on, I'm paired up with this woman, and never met her before, and we start investigating, and at the end of the night, she's like, hey, I'm the case manager for TAPS. I love the way you work. I would love to have you, you know, come out and maybe join the team. I was like, wait a minute. I said,
Yeah, I tried that already.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, all right, of course. So that's how I ended up joining TAPS, and then that's how I met Satori. So without Ghost Hunters, I probably would have never met Satori, which is really cool.
But we've had our fair share of experiences. I mean, I've seen things that you can't explain. Obviously, Cody and I are well known for doing a method of communication that gets some interesting results that we're working with. Cody actually had died and come back, and he had this miraculous experience. So it's like stuff like that. When you experience all of that,
And it seems like that unlocks something for people a lot of the time
does.
too, right?
It does.
Can we ask how that happened?
Yeah. So 2011, I was diagnosed with leukemia, and you know, of course, with cancer, there's a lot of, you know, complications and everything. I ended up having a bone marrow transplant in 2013, which you know, resolved the cancer issue, thankfully. And for that whole year afterwards, they keep you in quarantine. You're not allowed to, you know.
Yeah, any infection.
You're very
really
susceptible
take you down,
to
sure.
anything. Yeah.
So while I'm in quarantine, I end up, you know, I have no immune system. I end up getting a blood infection, and they had sent me home. I had just gone home, and they said, you know, make sure you check your temperature when you go home. You see if you have a fever, because if you have a fever, you have to go back in. And I had been in the hospital for almost a year straight, right before I went home. And I get home, and I start, you know, getting the shivers, and I was like, damn, I think I have a fever. So I check it myself, and I said, yeah, I do, but I don't tell anybody because I don't want to go back to the hospital again.
Yeah.
So I let it go a day. The next day, take it again. It's going higher. Next day, going higher. And finally, I'm shaking, and my parents see that something's obviously wrong. So my temperature had gone up to like 105 or
Holy
something,
shit.
very, very dangerous. And bring me into the hospital, and they put me on an ice bed, literally. And they say, you know, you have a blood infection. You know, surprise, you know, you could have got a blood clot. It could go to your heart. You know, you should be glad that you're still alive. We have to take this port out, you know, because most cancer patients have a port to put medicine in your chest. So they said, we need to take this out. You need to move anything foreign out of your body. So they put me to sleep with a drug that I had never had before. because the drug they usually use was out of stock. They were having a shortage at that time of the year. It made the news. And put me to sleep, and I ended up being allergic to the drug, and nobody knew it.
Oh, shit.
And right away, as soon as they put it in, I felt this big pressure on my chest, and then I was asleep. And I remember this big flash happening, and everything turned black. I was like, where am I? And then boom, white. And the only way I can describe it is imagine your eyes in the corner of the room on the ceiling, just looking down at everything happening. I saw myself.
You were like looking at yourself third person, pretty much.
Yeah. Looking at myself laying on the stretcher there, and they don't know what's going on. A nurse is, doing something over here on my chest, and there's a doctor taking out a new phone that he had just bought, a new BlackBerry phone that's in his pocket. He's showing everybody, and he puts it back in his pocket.
Because there was no heart monitor.
They forgot to hook a heart monitor up.
Oh.
So the only way they ended up finding out something was wrong is they had a pulse ox on me, an oxygen level, and they saw that started dropping eventually. Wow. And so another flash happens, and I have this, miraculous experience of it looks like a family portrait of people that are gliding towards me on what looks like a conveyor belt. They're just moving at me at that pace, waving with their hand. And I remember trying to lift my hand back up to wave back, and I couldn't lift my hand up. I said, sorry, I can't wave back. And as soon as I said that, they went backwards. There's a big flash. Everything turns black. I feel myself lying down and gliding at an angle. And then I land back on the stretcher thing, and then I'm waking up. And I started, telling my family what had happened, and then I started telling the nurses and doctors. The doctors said, that's normal to have hallucinations when you go through something like this. And I said, well, wait a minute. I says, I remember things. I says, I remember the nurse doing something, and you have a new BlackBerry phone in your pocket. And he freaked out.
Yeah.
Freaked out and backed out of the room, and I never saw him again. I got a new doctor.
Yeah, so he's probably just not a doctor anymore at all.
Yeah. So that definitely, after that experience, the whole, reason why I got into this was to figure out if there's life after death. And after that experience for me, confirmed for sure. So the whole shift kind of happened that, all right, I'm all set with myself, but let's do this to help other people now.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what TAPS does. We have pretty much every week we go into a client's house to work on a private case, families that are scared in their home. And don't charge anything. We don't believe you should be charged to get help if you're scared. There are people that do that, and I think that's like a big scam. I mean, so you'll have somebody come in and say, "Oh, you have a demon. I'll get it out for $400," and they come, they give you $400.
You do you.
Yeah. So we just don't do that. So we just go in and help, and just do our best to make them feel safe in their house. Yep.
Yeah, and I imagine sometimes there actually is something, and I imagine sometimes you're able to say, "Look, what you're hearing is this," and it's, a rattly pipe in the wall, or animals, or
most cases are like that. Most cases are, okay, you have a draft, let's look and see where air might be getting in.
Like, you don't need me, you need an exterminator.
But there are cases that we can't explain, and there are things that we can do that we can't explain, and that's just, it really, paranormal is just something we don't understand yet. That's really what it means, beyond our normal of what we know now.
Yeah.
So it's always changing.
And that's the thing with anything paranormal. It's like we were talking about it before the show on the way here, and it's like, obviously people are going to be skeptical, and it's like that's what paranormal is. It's something that you can't prove or disprove.
Mm-hmm.
It's just such a, you have to. Yeah, I mean, some people want to believe it so much that they fabricate things that they think they saw, and then some people want to not believe it so much that they can't see stuff that's happening right around them.
Suppress things they may have seen.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, some people are just so closed off to it just because the way they were brought up, their religious beliefs,
and that's okay.
Which is fine. And some people, they just haven't had an experience yet. I mean, most skeptics are skeptical because they haven't witnessed something for themselves, and they're just waiting for that to happen, if it does happen. So we're totally open to people who don't believe or just have questions.
Question from Craig, actually: do you think things ever accidentally get worse?
We have not, to our knowledge, had a case where things have gotten worse after we visited. Maybe a little more amped up once you acknowledge in certain cases. Sometimes we tell people, like, if you don't want the spirit out of your house, if there is one, try talking to them, try, understanding them, directly. And sometimes people do that and the activity does pick up a little bit because it's like, you hear me, you understand me, I'm going to keep going. So there's sometimes cases like that, but we've never had one where it's gotten like negatively worse.
No, I mean, and negative things are extremely, extremely rare. I mean, Hollywood is to blame for the demon stuff and negative stuff. Most of the stuff we deal with is just people that, lived, they died, they probably lived in the house at one time, they still love the house, they visit the house, and
it doesn't mean it's an evil entity or anything.
No, it's just, people like you and me, and a lot of the stuff they're doing, like if this microphone stand moves across the table or falls off the table, all of a sudden you're going to think, oh, something bad's here, just push that mic stand off the table. And in reality, it's just a spirit trying to get your attention.
Like
I'm here.
Person like, wow, I just did that.
Yeah.
So if something bad was happening, there's a lot of signs. I mean, we don't handle demons and stuff like that. We know, thankfully, we know a lot of people that's their specialty. And there would be multiple signs that something's bad. It just a microphone stand falling off a table is not going to say there's a demon there. There's other things that come into play. And you have to get psychologists involved at that point, and everything else. So that's definitely not our area of expertise at all. We just come in and try to help.
A couple listeners asking, have you ever brought things home? That was a good follow-up question.
Well, we hope so. We kind of hope so,
Yeah.
but for a different reason, not like from a case, because we collect haunted objects.
Oh, there you go.
So hopefully we have.
But as far as like bringing spirit energy out of the house, that's, I guess, the phrase I'll use that people are probably thinking of in this question is just have something like stick to you.
Yeah.
We've never, I'll speak for myself. I've never had anything where I'm like, oh, I have an attachment. Something's attached itself to me. But maybe that's just because I'm very strict in what I believe in. So I've never had anything like that happen. With the museum, though, it's like having an apartment full of hundreds of different characteristics, like
They're busy with themselves. They kind of leave you alone.
Like you'll walk in and something moves and you're like, stop. Just give me a minute.
Yeah.
You get used to it. But that's how I approach everything, really.
Yeah, it's like, come on, calm down, guys. It's bedtime.
Front yard in my underwear. Like, nope. Negative.
What about you?
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I've never had an attachment or anything. It's all I believe in your belief system, whatever you believe in. If you believe in a jug of milk, if that's going to protect you, believe in that. And that I believe is the key to not having anything bad happen to you or follow you home.
What's your opinion with the power of the mind versus the energy that's really in a room? Obviously your brain will interpret sounds and things different, or your brain might hear or see something that mine doesn't.
Yeah, that's a very it's like a complicated topic because there's not enough research done on how the mind can manipulate the environment or manipulate activity, because I think it kind of connects. I think your mind is incredibly powerful. We've seen it with cases where people supposedly can move things or make things happen with their mind and emotions.
Yeah.
So, and there are cases where you can look into that, like studies being done on stuff like that. So I think in a way the mind can manipulate activity to even happen. Like you might even be able to generate activity just with
I guess
mind.
that's what I was getting at. It's like sometimes the energy can be in you versus an outside force.
Absolutely. I think that's absolutely possible. I think there's kind of variations.
Yeah, we have had cases where it seems like the person is more haunted than the location of the house, and I think that can depend on what they've dabbled in, of course, as well. But I think certain energies attract this type of activity more than others as well. Just like you have a certain friend group. Certain people are attracted to you in life. It's the same way when you mix the realms together, per se, I think.
Craig, you have a Lorraine Warren style room.
We have something like that. We have over 500 items donated from all around the world, believed to be haunted, cursed, or associated with some sort of situation where death was involved.
And you just live with all that stuff.
So right now it's in like an off building on our property, but we have too much stuff and it's coming in literally like once a week. So we're looking for a location. We had one we were going to open, but sadly before we moved in items, the location had a fire, which thankfully it was before we moved anything in.
Yeah.
We weren't there. So I think that was the universe saying, not here, not now. So we're looking for a new location.
So is the plan like a brick and mortar location that people can come in? That's
Yes,
awesome.
I mean, we want to find a location with multiple rooms because we have different categories. Like we have a room full of just dolls and clowns. We have
Okay, I'll be skipping that room. Thank you very much.
Is it going to be like IKEA where you can like fast track around a room?
we're gonna see what we can find. There's rooms full of outfits from different cultural items from around the world. We have a dark room, which is some of the worst items from serious death situations, people, stuff like that, rituals. So we got it all.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before I forget, question from Emma. What famously haunted place do you find the scariest or most believable?
Ooh, okay.
Well, we lived at the Conjuring House for close to 2 years, and for us, living there was actually very peaceful.
It was
of course,
haunted?
it's haunted. But
I've heard many people say that.
Yeah.
yes,
That's peaceful.
and
Beautiful farmhouse and a
yes.
rural setting. Right?
Yeah.
Yep. But we resigned from that work environment at the beginning of this year. Other famous locations, haunted locations. Rolling Hills Asylum is a
Rolling
great
Hills
location in
Asylum
New York.
is active.
Sterling Hill Mining Museum in New Jersey. The Sally House in Iowa. Very emotional location.
I think the Sterling Hill Mining Museum is one of the most haunted, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It's
That's one of those industries where just so many people died. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
They never found all of the people that they lost.
Oh
in
yeah,
the mines.
no,
Like
there's
they're
people.
still
Oh, wow.
there. It's,
Yeah, and
it's
you walk in. The
crazy.
first time Satori and I were there, they have this recreation thing they built inside the mine that simulates a blast. There's all speakers and lights, and so they push the button and that happens. And as soon as it's over, you hear all this like it sounds like men yelling way down the mine.
And it's not part of the simulation.
No,
Oh, damn.
Whoa.
Yeah.
No
And,
shit.
and Satori and I don't know that, so we're like, wow, this is really good.
Yeah.
And the
I
guy's
can
like,
literally
"Oh,
hear the people dying.
the guy that took us in there was like, that's not part of this. And there was another section with a bell where if there's a cave in, there's an original bell where
Yeah.
you would have to ring it and scream for help. And somebody rang the bell to simulate it, and it looked like a lantern light started running down
Down the
the
mine.
tunnel. And
I'm
it's
getting
like
chills.
it's a long tunnel. And all of a sudden it just disappeared. Like the light went out. And that was it,
Jeez.
So locations like that are intense.
That was one thing, like being in Europe. It's like all these old buildings, and it's like thousands of people died to like build this church. They're
Yeah.
like lugging boulders
Oh
up
yeah,
on
how
their
many people
shoulders
fell
and
off
stuff.
what they
Yeah.
considered scaffolding back then,
and
yeah.
ladders, and it's
Yeah.
like they were like completely fine. Like whatever, it's going to take us 100 years to build this church, and thousands of people will die doing it.
Yeah.
That's just
That's
the way
insane.
it was. So on the topic of the haunted objects in the museum, you have some events in the pipeline for that right now, right?
We do. We actually have our first ever stage performance with them, and we're going to make it immersive. We're going to tell the story of a couple items we have in our collection that are more famous, and really immerse people into the story with them.
Yeah, it's different for us. So Satori and I have done, hundreds of I guess it would be more like a lecture or presentation on haunted objects, at different libraries in the New England area and colleges and things like that. But this is going to be more of, I guess, more theatrical in a sense, that you're going to feel like you're part of the story. And we hand selected really historical pieces.
It's going to be tough to decide when you have that many things.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, we tried to pick things that when people, see this, they're like, wow, I can't believe I'm seeing a piece of this, or I can't believe, I'm actually in the same room as this thing. So we tried to pick things like that without giving too much away on what we're bringing to this. And then on location to location, when this, moves to different venues, it'll be different. But this one coming up is going to definitely be interesting if you're into, old Hollywood, old gangsters and stuff like that.
Disasters,
mysteries. So things like that. If that piques your, and even if you don't believe in the paranormal and ghost side of it, the historical value of all this stuff is really neat.
That's the 26th, is it?
It's going to be October 26th at the Alley Theater.
Yep.
Still some tickets available. We'll share the link to the flyer and everything, so you can contact the theater and get tickets if you're interested.
Thank you.
So that's the 26th, and then sooner than later, hopefully, we'll have some news we can announce about a brick and mortar location. That would be awesome.
Absolutely.
That'd be great. I mean, we're trying to find the best location for this. I mean, there's places everywhere. We just don't want it to end up like a strip mall somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't have like an
Between
IHOP.
Panera and the yoga studio. Not a high traffic area.
Like, I don't want you to be able to go to Stop and Shop and then my haunted museum. Like, I want it to be different.
Like a standalone place would be ideal.
Yeah, and the people are a big part. So we traveled with the museum for about 2 years. We had this big truck that we'd bring a selection of like 30 to 50 objects to different haunted locations, and we'd set the museum up inside of the haunted building, and then people would come through and look at them.
Oh, that's cool. So you do like a temporary exhibit, basically.
Yeah, it would be like a weekend exhibit, or there's all these paranormal conferences that happen across the United States. So we, set up a whole room full of haunted objects.
We're doing that in New Jersey on November 2nd and 3rd. New Jersey Para-Unity.
Yeah. So the cool thing with New Jersey Para-Unity is, so we're great friends with the Warren Museum. Of course, Ed and Lorraine have passed away now.
Yep.
But Ed's blood nephew is a gentleman named John Zaffis. He's very well known. He's called the Godfather of the paranormal. That's how well known he is. And he also has a museum, and he's kind of been our mentor throughout this whole museum process here. So for the first time ever, for both us and him, in one big room at this paranormal conference, he's bringing some of his items, and we're bringing some of our items, and setting them all up in the same area together, which is going to be amazing. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that as well.
Me too.
So that's going to be in Woodbridge, New Jersey, the weekend of November, I think 2nd and 3rd.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah, Craig
I hope
actually
all the
asked-
personalities get along with the objects.
Yeah, right.
That's why I was giggling.
Because like you got your crew all gets along and his crew all gets along.
Yeah.
When they get
Hope
together.
So
Yeah.
we've never had them in the same room together, but also we bring items. Some items we have in a collection, and this is why I was laughing, because some of them I like to say they try to run away sometimes. Like we have items that will move, like literally just like you'll walk in. We have to lock doors at conventions because sometimes we'll come back into the event room the next day, and all of a sudden like a doll is across the room sitting in a different area, and we don't want to lose them.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm going to say the other thing is
Right.
you always hear stories where people trying to lose stuff and get rid of stuff and it comes back.
comes back,
you know?
yeah.
Yeah. It just wants to be where it wants to be.
It does.
Yeah, Craig said that's a good question. What happens to the stuff when the Warrens die? That doll room sounds like my hell. So somebody inherited the Warrens collection, I assume.
They did. Their daughter and
Judy,
son-in-law.
Judy, so if you've watched any of the Conjuring movies and Annabelle movies, she's portrayed in them. So her daughter Judy and her husband Tony. Tony's really the one who's more into the paranormal. Judy's really not into it. And then a gentleman by the name of Dan Rivera is the one who runs the museum. He's been part of the paranormal team that Nesper is Ed and Lorraine's group for many years now. So, and they actually have an event every year where they bring Annabelle out, and you get to meet her and get close to her and all that
But
stuff.
yeah,
So,
passing down items sounds a little bit tricky. We've talked about it too. We're like, what are we going to do when
Yeah,
we
exactly.
die?
What do we will this
I
stuff
mean,
to?
if we have kids, yeah, that's an option. But also, I kind of want to just put it in my will and like have everybody meet up at the end and be like, oh, so-and-so, you just inherited a whole haunted museum.
Oh.
Yeah,
like,
like
you
got him.
Like somebody,
Yeah.
somebody I trust gets dropped with a haunted museum.
Yeah.
I know Ed and Lorraine, their final wishes was they hoped that their museum would go to the Vatican, which is interesting. But obviously that
Yeah,
I guess
they're
would
like,
never happen.
they're like, yeah, now we're good.
Not going to happen. Yeah.
No. So yep. But they still have it. It's not open to the public because of zoning issues, but it's still there. All the stuff is still there, locked up.
Probably as it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting undertaking. What initially gave you both the idea to start collecting this stuff?
Oof. Accident.
Did you? I was gonna say, did you end up with something from an investigation that you couldn't get rid of, or felt you shouldn't?
Yeah. So I was a part of the TAPS investigation portion of the team before a couple years before Satori, and when you're doing cases every weekend, almost 50 cases a year, 50 cases a year, sometimes more, sometimes a couple a week. Once in a while, you come across a case where an object seems to be the catalyst of whatever's going on. They think something's up with the item. They got it at an antique store, or
Like an attachment issue, basically.
Attachment, something's with it, something's causing the haunting. And none of the people on the TAPS team wanted to take this thing, and we don't want to throw it out because we're taught by the people who have done this before, years before us, decades before us, the people like Ed, Lorraine, John Zaffis, that you don't throw these things out. You don't burn these things. You don't throw them out. You don't bury them.
You could make it worse.
Because you can make it a lot worse. These things have to be, dealt with, carefully.
Yeah.
And,
if it's released from that object, it could attach itself to another object, which could be less desirable.
Yes, or a person. So,
Yeah.
so
That would be less desirable.
Yes.
Or you just really pissed off a spirit and they're going to make sure you know it.
Yeah.
yeah, and there's a lot of misconceptions with haunted objects as well. But anyway, so nobody wanted to take the thing home, and I was like, okay, well, I'll take it. So I took it home and just to watch over it, kind of like.
Did you call? Were you together on this investigation? Or like,
No, I didn't even know her yet.
oh, okay.
No,
so you
and
had
then
this
we
before.
met.
Yeah,
I was gonna
I
say,
didn't know yet.
if you're like living together.
Let's say,
So, babe, hear me out.
Yeah, I know, right?
So you go home like, Mom, Dad, look what I got. It's on the shelf in the living room.
It's become that now.
Yeah.
But when we first met, he told me about it. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool, and things started happening. And then we started going on like TikTok, Instagram, YouTube videos, and we started telling the stories about what few items we have. And then people from all around the world are like, I think I have an item. Like, I didn't know anything about this until you started talking about it. And now we have 500 plus items. We get packages that just show up with no warning, that have like notes in them, like good luck, your problem now.
That really happened. Yeah.
Oh shit!
Do you have like a line, like a we're not keeping this line?
No.
Awesome.
No, yeah. There are items we have that I would never want to own.
Yeah.
But the only reason we do is because it was at risk of either being destroyed, or the item I felt like would have been mistreated if it was put somewhere else, and kind of like people would be like, look what this cool item I have from this person that took all these lives.
Yeah.
And we're like, that's not what we're promoting. We'll educate you about it, but we're here to take care of it, even if we have to lock it in a room away from
It's
everybody.
a bunch of lead boxes stacked
Yeah.
on top of each other.
Speaking of what's in the box.
Yeah, right?
Oh, okay. You want to see what's in
Oh,
the box?
Yeah.
So yeah, so
Well, we're on the topic.
we brought a couple of little things that we could fit in our pockets.
Yeah,
here to
just
bring.
little
So-
things. So you guys want to hold this one? This is okay.
Sure.
Do you want to know what it is first?
No, you have to guess. That one's okay to hold. I
Okay.
don't usually let people hold things if I don't think it's okay.
What do you think it is?
Well, I mean,
It looks like a toe tag.
Oh.
Like an original toe
Guess it
tag
could
of some
be.
kind.
maybe.
I mean, I don't know what it looks like. Yeah.
It might be.
It definitely wasn't tied to a dead person's toe.
It's definitely local. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a toe
Yeah.
tag. Yeah.
Damn.
Good eye.
That was a good look.
That was
Ryan is sneaky with the drop of knowledge sometimes.
But he's afraid to hold it.
No, I'll hold it. I was just goofing around.
It was only on a deceased body. It's fine. It's not like we brought the actual
Body.
body.
Yeah.
They didn't bring the actual toe.
We
No.
do have skeletons and heads and
Oh,
things in
man.
our museum.
Oh, John's going to, don't even tell him. Get me over there.
You might be wondering why it's not still with the body, right? So
Hold it,
there's
then I'll bring it to the
an
camera.
interesting
Yeah.
thing that happened.
Yeah, those
in-
generally would stay with it, right?
Yeah, so the metal ones, especially if someone's getting cremated, that obviously wouldn't burn. So that's how they, for organizational purposes, that's what they would use them for. But in Rhode Island, there's actually an interesting reason why a couple people would find these things. And we actually have a couple of these in the museum. And the whole reason behind this is, at least with this one, a woman is walking around mowing her grass one summer, and she sees something glistening, in the sun. So she thinks it's a coin, picks it up, brings it inside, and then gets a magnifying glass out, starts looking at it, and sees the name of the cemetery, calls up the cemetery and says, "Hey, I just found this in my front yard, and it has a number." So, and the number obviously corresponds with the person, and the person at the cemetery is like, "Yeah, how'd you get that? What's going on? I can't tell."
Was
you.
that supposed to be in the ground?
It's supposed to be with the person, not in somebody's front yard. So I can't tell you who it belongs to, for privacy reasons. But all I can tell you is it's not supposed to be where it is. So so we start, doing more research on this whole area. Come to find out, in the 50s, there was two, massive, storms back to back, rainstorms, and there was so much water that it rose all of the ponds and the rivers, and to the point where a few cemeteries in Rhode Island, the bodies and the caskets were dislodged from the cemetery.
Depending on the water table height.
Floating
Yeah,
down
I've
the
heard
street.
that's my guess was a flood because
Yeah.
I've heard
Yeah.
that before.
They were landing in people's yards open.
Oof.
Yeah. So they were everywhere, and there was no way for people to track down which body went to which grave, and
Especially if they came out of the coffins.
yeah.
And, yeah.
So we believe that's how this ended up there. It's either that or somebody was cremated and the ashes were spread. But it would be a very odd area to spread ashes if that's what happened. But we ended up getting more calls into the museum. A few months later, somebody found a casket handle in their backyard while they were
no
doing
shit.
a
wow.
renovation.
Coffin nails.
Coffin nails everywhere. The whole Woonsocket, Providence area, when people metal detect their yards, they're finding this stuff, coffin nails and things, and casket handles. So we've actually had, a number of calls of people finding similar things like this. And as soon as this woman brought the toe tag into the house, activity started up right away. She starts seeing shadow figures. She starts getting poked on the shoulder. So there definitely, was something going on there.
Maybe not negative, but it's like, hey, you found me.
Right, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And most of the stuff we deal with that is coming to the museum, we believe that it's just something that somebody loved in life, And
Yeah.
usually when somebody dies, a lot of their stuff, if they don't have family to go to, and even if they do have family, they end up donating a lot of their items to thrift stores and stuff like that, and then it gets sold off. Somebody buys it. And maybe it's something that you cared about a lot in life, and you want to check in on it. And maybe somebody else purchased it at a secondhand store, and you don't like that person that much. So you start acting up a little bit.
I would.
And that's why, we get a phone call. And then as soon as we get it, most of the time when something comes into the museum, we put it in what we call a quarantine period for about 2 weeks in a room by itself, lock the door, camera on it, all different equipment around it, and nothing usually happens. And we believe that once you move an item out of one environment, sometimes there's an acclimation period.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes a couple weeks, a couple days, a couple years, or sometimes nothing happens at all. It's just the energy, the living energy of the environment that it came from that is kind of making this thing active.
Yeah. What the environment is what's causing the reactive
Right,
energy more so
exactly.
than the thing itself.
Exactly. Yep. And this one's pretty interesting too. You want to tell this one? Or you want me to?
Sure. So this came to us from a woman in Alabama.
Yeah. For the listeners not watching, it's a rosary bead. Yeah.
Oh, yes. We'll
And
have to show that after this. So her mother she was a big church woman. She would go to church multiple times a week. She would do her rosaries, go for service, things like that.
Yep. Rosaries every Wednesday, church service every Sunday, religiously.
On a Wednesday, the woman's waiting for her kids to get off the bus. She's freaking out. She has to feed the dog, make the kids a snack, prepare for them to come home. And in walks her mother, which is strange because it's a Wednesday. She should be at church. So she says, "Mom, what are you doing here?" She says, "Oh, my head hurts today. God's not going to be mad at me if I miss a day at church." So
That's what you think.
Yeah.
I'll come in, I'll help you, I'll help with the dog, you make the snack, and we'll do this before the kids get home. So the bus starts pulling up the road. The woman says, "Okay, Mom, I'll be right back." She runs outside. She greets her kids and says, Here you go.
Oh,
she
yeah.
greets her kids and says, she greets her kids and says, "Grandma's here. She's inside waiting for you." So the kids are excited. They start to head into the house, and all of a sudden her phone rings, and it's her sister. And her sister's frantic. She says, "I've been trying to call you for an hour. You haven't picked up. Why haven't you picked up?" She says, "I've been busy. Why? What's wrong?" She says, "I'm sorry to tell you this, but Mom passed away in her sleep last night. We had found her, and she had just had a whole conversation with her mom inside of the house." So
That's freaky.
she runs inside. She drops everything, runs inside the house. The dog has been let out of the house. There's food in the dog bowl, which she had never done. And her mom's nowhere to be seen, but the rosary beads are sitting on the table, which were her rosary beads. How they transported all the way, like 30 minutes from their house to hers, we have no clue. But she thinks it was like a final goodbye to tell her that she's gone.
Yeah, so this type of apparition is called a crisis apparition. It's very well known in the paranormal. It's rare, but it's very well known, and we believe, like Satori said, that the whole point of a crisis apparition is to give one more memory with your loved one before you know that they've passed on.
So it's a very strong energy.
Yes. And then when you
to create an impactful memory,
right?
Yeah.
And then when you replay. Like when we talked to this woman, she had the same experiences. When you replay the memory in your head of what just happened,
Things aren't making sense.
Yeah, you notice little things that are off. Like I didn't see her feet. She had no feet.
Some
but
people
you
have
don't
come to us
realize
and said
that in the
yeah.
moment. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like we had one where somebody saw somebody go into an elevator. It looked just like a real person, living person, and then you replay back the memory. The elevator door never dinged.
Yeah, there's pieces
weird
missing.
things that are missing. So, so stuff like that is the stories that I like. I love the crisis apparition stories, and because that stuff gives you chills.
We didn't bring the dark, scary stuff for you, but we wanted
Yeah.
to bring a couple little things so you could
Yeah,
see.
no, that's really cool.
Yeah, that's really cool.
But if you think
Talk
of it,
about
we
a chilling
probably
story.
have some form of it in our collection, probably.
I'm intrigued to see more now.
So with these particular items,
Yeah.
when you guys brought them back to the museum and quarantined them, nothing happened with them?
The only time something happened with these items, we have not had anything happen with the rosary beads.
Yeah.
We did have something happen with the toe tag. When we first brought it, nothing happened in quarantine, I don't believe. I don't recall. And then we brought it into the museum. I remember people starting to report seeing a tall, skinny shadow person like darting around the room and like sitting in the corners, which is really strange because we hadn't had that reported before. We've also heard voices. We've heard like rustling noises, and it was when we brought the toe tag into the collection. But obviously we have hundreds of items. It's kind of impossible unless we take each item out at a time and see what happens, But it was a little strange how it happened.
The only thing I can think of with the rosary beads is that was included on our traveling thing for a little while, and we actually have like a religious section where people have donated religious things, and people feel like a warmth energy.
Yes.
And like a feel-good energy coming off of this stuff. The first item that I actually ever got is a painting of Christ, and it belonged to my grandfather, and it was passed down to him from his grandfather. And the story behind that was when I was little, I remember, I'd go downstairs to say goodnight to my grandfather every night, and sometimes he'd be sitting on the edge of his bed and he'd pray to this painting every night. And when I saw him doing that, I'd always back off and wait till he was done, and then I'd come in and say goodnight. And he would tell me the story on how this painting was his grandfather's, and he would pray to it every day, every night. And on his deathbed, he was extremely scared to die. And he claimed that the painting looked at him and started talking and saying, everything's going to be okay. You have nothing to worry about. And then he had a peaceful death after that. It was passed down to his son, who didn't have anything happen. And then it was passed down to my grandfather. And my grandfather had a very similar experience when he was on his deathbed. He said he saw his mom. He wasn't scared to die, but he said he saw his mom coming to greet him. And all of a sudden, he looks up at the painting and he says that he's going to be okay and everything's going to be fine. And then that painting was given to me, and thankfully it hasn't talked to me yet, which I guess is a good sign.
I was going to say, it's like every other generation. You're up.
I tell him not to look at it. Don't look at it.
Yeah,
Don't look
if
at
that thing talks to you,
Not staring directly.
I gotta get to the hospital.
Yeah. But with the religious things, people feel warmth, energy. We actually had an incident with that painting that was also on our traveling exhibition.
My gosh.
And something overcame somebody. And we have a big rule, don't touch any of the items, just for their safety. Not so much for the items, but for your safety, don't touch the objects. And something came over this woman, and all of a sudden we just see her dart in the room past the guy watching the door, just runs over and kisses the painting and runs out.
Somebody came up to me and they're like, there's lip marks on the painting. And afterwards we found out it was the lady that ran up and kissed it and ran out. And we didn't put two and two together until somebody was like, why are there lip stains on the painting glass?
So did the painting tell her something?
I don't know. It depends on the religion and the culture. Some people believe items like that are miracles. You know? It could depend on if she was, heavily faithful, things like that. But
is Mr. DJ brick and mortar location is not set yet, but we will definitely share that information when it happens. But I imagine it'll be somewhere within like Mass, Rhode Island, Connecticut.
Yes. Yep. It will be either in Rhode Island, Connecticut, or Southern Massachusetts. Yes.
Okay, cool. Mm-hmm. So yeah, in the general vicinity of a lot of our listeners. So we'll definitely share that when there's more information on it.
Yeah, thank
you.
With your thoughts, I'm going back to like the items having, something happens at the house, like with the toe tag.
Yeah.
When she brought it inside, there was something going on. And then you guys brought it. If something did happen, you said, right, with the toe tag?
Yes, yeah.
So with items that nothing happens in the quarantine, what do you think is the connection as far as that energy, that object making something happen? Because has that lady had anything happen since it's been removed?
No.
Not that we have been told.
So fucking crazy to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and there's some items we have in our collection we do not think are haunted at all. We think that, some people are just, they really want to get rid of it. They really believe that's the cause. And if we can take it off your hands and you feel better, that does the job for us, You always have the ability to have your object back. We're called the foster home for haunted objects because you can always take it back.
Okay.
But, it's hard to really distinguish.
Yeah, I mean, and that happens with most cases. So every object that we have has, a case file that goes with it. And usually we do a phone interview that lasts about an hour. We ask a bunch of different questions and just to get the full scope of what's going on. And a lot of times, these items are purchased at a secondhand store or yard sale. There are rare times where it is an item that is passed down within the family. Like we had a big model ship that was handmade by a woman's father. And no activity in the house. As soon as he passes away, they leave his whole workshop the way it is. And they walk by the workshop and they see, a tool spinning, like a chisel spinning on the table, and
they hear noises,
it's
being worked on.
Yeah, so they donate the ship, and they're not trying to get rid of their father, but they know that maybe he's still trying to finish it or something, and it's freaking them out. It's still freaking them out. They love their dad, but it's freaking them out, and they want to share his life story as well. So we have items that have been donated just to share and keep somebody's memory alive, but we believe that. That items that people mainly have purchased at a secondhand store end up acting up mainly in people's locations because they just don't like the environment that they're in.
The item doesn't want to be there.
They just they just don't like what's going on there.
We've had cases where people have heard voices, seen things move towards them, they've been terrified, we take it, nothing happens. So it's almost like, did you just not like that person that bought your item?
Very strange,
And it's nothing against the people. I mean, they're very nice people that we deal with. But the person that owned that thing at one point in time may just not like that.
Whatever, energy is associated with that item doesn't want to be in your house.
Right. Or if there's children. I mean, we've had some cases where there's a child involved and activity only happens when the child is at the household. If it's like a split, family, and the child only comes on like the weekend or something, there would only be activity on the weekend. So it depends. It all depends on what the living energy and is going on in the house. Sometimes it can be very complicated to narrow down that it actually is the item. The first thing we always recommend is, all right, if you think, the first question is, not every phone call that comes in is, I have a haunted object. It's, I have a haunted house. And then we're like, okay, Did you bring anything new into your house recently? Yes. I went to an antique store and brought home this weird thing.
You have a haunted object
Right.
in your house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, so the first thing you need to do is take the item, go put it in a shed or something, and leave it there and see if the
Now you have a
activity in
haunted
the
shed.
house- Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
Now a haunted
But it's better to have a haunted shed than a haunted house.
Correct.
So, so usually the activity would go away, and that's how you kind of pinpoint that something's going on with this thing, and then we take it from there. You know, we either go pick it up or we have them send it to us.
On the topic of kids, what's your opinion on children seeing things more than adults based on, I guess, the skepticism isn't there because
They're not quite as cynical yet.
yeah,
to the
they're
world.
just exactly. They're just pure.
Absolutely.
You know, do you think that's
a very
really the
good-
explanation of it?
Yeah, well, I think that's a big part of it. I mean, that's the way Satori was brought up. Never closed off to any of this stuff. Never taught, to be closed off. The other scientific side of this is one of my best friends, Dustin Parry, and he was on the show Ghost Hunters and Ghost Hunters International, and Barry Fitzgerald from Ireland. They did a lot of work together researching this whole topic, and they found that there was a study done on children seeing activity, and they would document the points in their life when they would see stuff paranormally, and come to find out when we're born and as we grow older, we develop this lens, like a contact lens over our eyes to block out the UV rays from the sun. And we theorize the spirit world exists in this UV spectrum. That's why we use full spectrum cameras to see into the UV spectrum, the ultraviolet spectrum, and the low end of the spectrum. So if that's the case, if spirits do exist in the spectrum, children who are first born can see into that spectrum, much like dogs and cats.
So
Which
you-
is why you have a lot of
Explains why
and
dogs
cats.
barking at nothing.
nothing, yeah.
Exactly. And as you grow older, this lens over your eye gets thicker and thicker, allowing you to not see into that spectrum as much
You're
anymore.
aged out of seeing ghosts.
Some people never develop that
So.
lens.
Yeah.
Some people never develop that lens, which could explain mediums, seeing spirits as
Yeah.
adults. So I think it's both things. You're the way you're brought up and what you're taught belief wise, and just growing up and developing that lens.
Huh. Holy shit.
Yeah, the scientific side of it is interesting.
It is interesting.
But it adds like a whole
mind-blowing.
nother layer to it. I like this whole idea of like coming up
The
with a
science almost
scientific,
proves the possibility.
exactly, an actual explanation for it versus just, well, some people see it and some people don't, you know?
We could talk for hours about this. Just sit around a table all night.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Hey man, you hear about this study? Like, just
It's cool.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if I have any like weird old thing from my house. I want to see what you think of it.
You just buy new weird things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
it
buy new
yeah.
weird
Half
things,
the shit
yeah.
in your house, who knows?
Nah, the weird thing in my house was there before I brought any of the weird
okay,
shit
I
into
need
the
to
house.
know about this weird
Oh,
thing
right.
in the
Oh, yeah,
house.
yeah. So we talked about it a little bit before the show started. So I've been in the house like 10 years and I've never felt anything bad or negative in the house. I wasn't getting like noises, lights. Like I've been in houses growing up where like lights are turning on and off and doors are slamming. Like I don't know if it was necessarily bad, but it was stuff messing with us.
Yeah.
I never even had that experience with my current house, but I always had this one spot at the top of the stairs. Like I pee a lot. So like I wake up in the middle of the night and it's like, yeah. So it's like, I wake up at 2 a.m. and it's like, I open the bedroom door and like the bathroom door is right at the top of the stairs. It's an old house from 1880, really steep staircase. And it was actually a barn before it was a house. It was converted to a house in the early 1900s, I think. And, at the top of these stairs, I'm afraid to look down them at night into like the dark first floor. And I always just get like a chill when I'm at the top of these stairs. And I didn't really think too much of it. I just know when I'd like wash my hands, turn the light off, and like shuffle into my bedroom as quickly as possible. Like I'm like, why am I running? I'm
Getting
like,
into those protective
like I'm
covers.
just gonna get in. Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna get in my bedroom and shut
That
the door.
comforter is
Yeah.
a ghost shield.
Okay, so I have a question.
Yeah.
This is really weird. Do you get up around the same time every night?
There's definitely like stints of time that it is the same time. Yeah.
Okay, and it's always at night that you feel uncomfortable to look down the stairs.
Yeah, it's never during the day.
Okay, so I'm wondering, and you always get a chill.
It's it's always like between like 2 and 3.
Okay.
If it's at like 5 a.m. and it's still dark, it like doesn't really happen. It's
doesn't
like
really
between
happen.
2 and 3.
So
Sounds residual.
it sounds, and this is just a theory, there's different kinds of hauntings.
Yeah.
Residual haunting is not actually a ghost. It's just a replay of energy that's been imprinted. So let's say somebody walked up and down those stairs at that time
Yeah.
for some reason, and it's just you keep replaying it and now they're gone, and it's like a broken record and that energy's still going. Or maybe something tragic happened there years prior in that one spot.
Yeah,
at
like
that
we did a
time.
case once, actually in Middleborough, where every Thanksgiving, this family would hear this huge explosion. Boom. Every Thanksgiving, thinking things fell over upstairs because they had their Thanksgiving in like the basement area and the big dinner. And they'd run upstairs, nothing would happen. So come to find out, we start doing research, and right across the street on Thanksgiving, like 10 years ago, the house blew up.
Wow.
Damn.
And that is imprinted in the environment now, just for this family. So
it's not that it's something just in my head. The energy is there.
It's theorized, and it would be worth it to have people come check it out, set up some equipment around that time, just leave it going and see if, let's say, between 2 and 3, all of a sudden all the equipment starts going off. Like there's something there. And it's like maybe it's not in your head.
Yeah.
You're just getting that weird energy that happens that's been imprinted, and you keep meeting whatever's there at that time.
The thing that made it weirder was when my now wife moved in the house. I think it might have been on the podcast that I had never told her about it. And it was either like after recording an episode, or it came up, and she had been living there for like 6 months or a year at this point. And I was like, yeah, somebody asked like, oh, the house was in the 1800s. Do you think it's haunted? And I'm like, no, sometimes at the top of the stairs at night, I had this weird feeling, but that's it. She's like, oh my God, I have that exact same feeling in the same spot. And
You guys are just afraid of the dark.
All right. Well, Craig said he puts his nightlight on.
They're
yeah.
being polite, giving you some type of reasoning. They don't want to be rude to you. You're just fucking afraid of the dark.
The only downside is if it does show itself to be some sort of residual energy, it's not anything intelligent you can really talk to and lay down a ground rule for.
So it's just not going to go away.
It's just kind of stuck.
Yeah.
So that's the only downside to it.
So the psychic that came on the show, she like did a reading on me, I guess, and her theory was that somebody fell down the stairs, like when it was a barn.
She did say that.
She was like, I don't know if they fell down the stairs or if like maybe somebody like hung themselves from like a rafter or something in the barn, but like something associated with a height thing in that house. But maybe even before it was a house happened there. Like that was her theory.
Absolutely.
and that could leave residual energy as well.
Yeah, and that was the thing she said, was like, it doesn't mean it's anything bad. It could have just been somebody that lived in that house or like lived on that property and used that barn or whatever. Mm-hmm. So who knows?
Big time.
Yeah, it's an old house, and if that's like the worst thing. It's like I go in the basement at night. It doesn't freak me out. It's like going to the bathroom is scary. It's the worst thing for me.
Oh, we've had some experiences like that, though.
Yeah, big time. And we get reports like that all the time where it's just residual activity, nothing intelligent that you can speak to.
We've had situations though, like for example,
I'd
in
never
the
heard this
museum-
residual activity thing. That's crazy.
Yeah,
Me neither.
search
Yeah.
up residual haunting. You'll find out a lot about it. But we, like for example, at the museum, like the only problem about having a haunted museum is, like I said, it's like having a bunch of people with different personalities in one space.
Can objects have residual activity?
We think so,
Yes.
yes. So that's what we theorize. We have some items that only act up at certain times, certain things happen to it, like the sounds of drums, the smell of fire, things like that. But there are times we'll go down into the museum and like all the dolls' heads will be spun around. Like somebody twisted them. Like that's, or the door to the quarantine room will be unlocked and opened and one of the dolls will be looking into the room, like in the pitch black dark. Like it's just stuff like that. You know,
What is it about dolls that can take a group of people and just mentally fuck them up instantly? Like someone's like,
It's so true.
Those dolls with their heads that spun around. We're like, oh,
not that.
get him out of here! Get him out of here!
It's the Hollywood thing. You got
Oh my
Chucky, you got
God.
Annabelle, you got all
Yeah.
these dolls. Like
It's just
that's
Yes.
how Hollywood portrayed an evil entity for 20 years.
I think earlier she said dolls and clowns. I'm like, fuck.
that's exactly
It's
it.
a clown holding a doll. Well, I'm out. Yeah.
You're
Oh my
absolutely correct.
Yeah.
It's Hollywood. Hollywood has created every doll is haunted that looks creepy. So most of our items donated to the museum are
my
dolls because
God.
people are uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Not all of them are haunted, but there are some that we have. Like Cody's going to pull up a video in a second, I think,
Yeah, I'm sending it to your Instagram.
Okay, perfect.
of a
boy.
doll we have. And like at 2:30 in the morning, she picks herself up and just
Nope.
starts moving around.
Just nope.
So, backstory on this doll. One of the first items.
I don't even know if I want to hear it.
You do. She might be coming to the Alley Theater.
She will. Yeah, she just might be. So, one of the first items that I ever got.
This is a slippery slope because I can't play a YouTube video on YouTube Live.
All right,
Let's
But-
just get your reaction. To
Yeah,
it.
All right.
I can put a
um,
screenshot of it though.
Can I send you a video?
Oh yeah.
on
Send
Instagram?
you could send me. Actually, you can airdrop it to me. Is that an iPhone?
Yes. All right. Let me do that. 1 second.
Yeah, just airdrop it to my MacBook.
Backstory on this item. So this is one of the oldest items we have in our collection before it was the museum. So Cody had done a podcast, talked about how he has a collection of some strange items that he gets from cases. He gets a message from somebody saying, "Please call me. I heard you on the podcast." So Cody calls this gentleman, answers the number, he picks up, and the first thing is like, make it stop, over and over again. So Cody tries to calm him down. You got to tell us what's going on. He says, I have a doll. She's talking to me in my head. And he pretty much says she's telling me to do bad things to myself, other people. She's ruining my life, things like that. So first thing is psychologist. You know, you want to make sure that they're mentally sound. The psychologist had, talked to him, looked at the situation, said, seems okay, seems fine. Maybe this doll is just like a catalyst to whatever's going on. So we said, we'll meet you in a public location. We'll take the item off your hands if you really want it gone. Can we ask why you've never thrown it away? He goes, I did. She keeps coming back. What he said was what he meant by that was he had thrown her in the dumpster. The garbage man had taken her out of the dumpster, brushed her off, put her back on the porch.
Oh, Jesus.
Wait,
So-
what? The garbage man?
That's what we think. So she appeared back on the porch. We think the best chance of that is the garbage man saw her just loosely laying in the dumpster, maybe just put her back. That's what we're guessing. Unless it's an Annabelle type situation. So we said, okay, we'll take her off your hands. He said, thank you. Seems like everything's going well once we take this doll from him. And then he disappears. We haven't been able to contact him since. It's like he never existed. So we put her in the collection.
Your Bluetooth down?
Should be. Let me see.
And ever since we brought her to the collection, she's the reason the other dolls' heads have spun around. For example, we had her in the doll room. She does not get along well in that room.
Does not play well with others.
So what we did was, funny enough, we sat her on a shelf. And we just gave her
There
own
you go.
little spot.
I
made
just
her
switched
feel
it to everyone on
important.
airdrop.
And since we put her on the shelf, now she just moves around on the shelf, which is a little strange.
That is, yeah.
But
Other than like seeing things on camera happening, like with the dolls, have you physically seen it? Like
we have seen her physically move once. It was very minor.
She actually moved a couple times on the traveling exhibit for guests.
Yes. So if you look at her, she is circled right there. And this is not sped up. This is not edited.
One of the creepiest videos ever.
is that like a
because we
ceramic
recorded it.
doll?
She's
It's
porcelain.
face with a cloth body.
Could it get any more fucking
I'm
weird?
not ready for this. All right.
We don't have much on her backstory. He wouldn't tell us how he got her. So she moves her arm, and then she starts to sit up, and then she sits her belt back down. And it'll zoom in so you can
Like she's
see
trying
it.
to burp.
Some people say they see her eyes move. I don't know about
That
that.
left eye
a
just
little
moved.
bit, a little
That
bit.
left eye absolutely
I just saw
moved.
that too.
But they're painted on. There's no eyeball to them.
Oh, that makes
This
it
is
worse.
getting worse.
Ooh, I don't think I want this video on my machine.
Meanwhile,
too late
that
now.
thing's creeping me right the fuck
Yeah,
out.
that one's
Yeah.
creepy too, yeah.
The baby head.
So
Yeah.
right away we tried to debunk it. Like, is there a spring in her arm? Like, 'cause
Yeah.
she-
So this
so much
video is
stuffing.
within your possession.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is
The quarantine room's
security
directly
camera.
to the left of it.
Yes.
Okay.
2018, and we thought maybe there's too much like cotton in her arm because her hands looked like they were on her lap, and then the hand just kind of springed on its own.
But
Yeah.
then we're
But
like,
then-
how'd she sit up?
Yeah, she's defying gravity when she lifts
Yeah,
herself
when
up.
it lifts like that.
That's what we can't explain. Like boom. Like,
And then she sits down. So that's Liza.
And it's 2:28 a.m. Of course. Why is everything always like near optimum darkness?
The witching hour. 3 o'clock witching hour, whatever
But
it was.
she is, and we've put her in rooms with other dolls. Again, they don't get along. We have another doll named Jolene that's a big clown doll, handmade clown doll.
What do you mean they don't get along?
Well, when I said all the head spun around,
Yeah.
it was right after we put her in the doll room. So, but she was the only one whose head did not spin around. Or whose body
think
didn't
that
spin.
everyone is alive, right? You have
Yeah.
100 people. In this case, you have in the doll section, maybe it was like 150 dolls, maybe 200 dolls.
A lot of dolls.
That's a heavy population.
200
for dolls.
people. 200 people that don't know each other, and they all get put in a room. All
Yeah.
different backgrounds, and once in a while, you throw a new person in the room, and
Then
that
you throw
person
one that doesn't get along.
doesn't get along with the rest of them. So you have to move that one to a different spot, and then everything's fine. But if you move it back to that spot, things start acting up again. So yeah, I mean it's crazy.
One
I know
time-
it's crazy, but
We brought her to an investigation in Pennsylvania, and we had her and Jolene the clown doll, which we got from a daycare because Jolene was causing a problem at the daycare. So we got both of them. We sat them in a location together, and everybody in the room watched as she started to act up with equipment, and then all of a sudden Jolene slid out of her chair, but like caught herself in the chair. Like her arm somehow caught to the chair and she didn't fall off fully. Like she grabbed herself. So like everybody witnessed that. So things like that we've seen with our eyes.
Stuff like this just must make you want to have cameras going on everything all the time.
We try to.
we try, and it's rare. It's rare that you catch something moving. More audio than anything.
Yeah.
Audio seems to be common across the board in the paranormal as a more
Like the whole EVP
common
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
more common thing that you would get. I mean, the most common evidence is audio.
With technology moving as rapidly as it does, how does that affect like the whole EVP thing with like analog audio versus digital audio versus the phones? Like there's so many layers to it and opinions, but what's your opinion on like the newer equipment and stuff? Obviously there's like the Spirit Talker apps and stuff versus like, just a REM pod where it's like lighting up when something's near it.
Yeah. So I think as far as audio goes, I don't think it's anything to do with the device. I think it's the microphone. I think that's the big thing. Condenser versus dynamic microphones. Dynamic microphones, like the one I'm using now, I believe.
Yeah.
So we theorize that EVP Spirit Boys is EMF energy. EMF energy is the only energy that can move in wavelengths just like audio can.
Okay.
So you can play something. So I don't know if any of you know anything about electric guitars. You have pickups in electric guitars. When you strum the guitar, the pickup, the magnetic string resonates with the pickup, and then it comes out of the amplifier. Well, if you put sound into the amplifier, so the sound comes out of the pickup, you won't be able to hear the sound. But if you hold a dynamic microphone up to it, you'll hear the sound perfectly.
shit.
So we theorize that an EVP is EMF energy, and dynamic microphones can pick up that because of the diaphragm inside of them. Condenser microphones can't. So is all EVP like that? No, I don't believe so. But I believe the type of microphone is what your result is going to be. So I only use dynamic microphones in my recorders, and some of the older recorders, that's the way they're built with diaphragms in them. So I think that that is what helps. And then of course magnetic tape with the reel-to-reel. It's the same thing. EMF can be imprinted on magnetic tape. There's experiments where people have done where they've taken cassette tapes and just leave them in a room that's supposedly haunted, and then open the cellophane wrap like a week later and put it in, and you hear voices on it.
Oh, wow. Like
So-
it imprints
Holy shit.
itself to the tape
Yeah.
So
without
in
even
that case,
being in a
the older
recorder.
technology is probably almost better than a digital
Yeah,
version.
yeah, and
Yeah, like if you took
Wow.
the same microphone and you or plugging it into a hard drive
Right.
versus a reel-to-reel recorder,
Right.
you think you'd get different results on the reel-to-reel?
Yeah, I think reel to reel would give you better results
Better
because you
results.
have more chance because you have the magnetic tape.
Okay.
But I think you already have a good shot with a dynamic microphone. Like we got a lot of reports, and this really doesn't have to do with dynamic microphones, but we got a lot of reports during COVID because everybody was using Zoom to communicate with each other.
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden they start hearing other voices coming out of their speakers because this is the first time where the entire population is using technology more than anything, video chatting and things like that. So we got a lot of reports, during COVID. So I don't really, I mean, you can get an EVP on anything that has a microphone and a speaker, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I think your chances are better if you just use equipment that
Certain
we believe,
equipment.
backs up the theories that we have.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Jeez. Wow.
We could be completely wrong as well. So
That's why it's called a theory.
yeah.
So what are your general, obviously everybody has different techniques. What's your go-to techniques or equipment that you use on a average investigation, we'll say?
Well, the basic, recorders, like Cody was talking about, flashlights, REM pods, static domes, which detect static anomalies in the environment. Us, definitely.
Yeah. So there was a thing called the spiritualist movement at the turn of the early 1800s, and that's when the whole seance thing was born up in New York, and the whole holding hands and using your own energy to communicate, mediums, kind of like the birth of all of that.
It's combining multiple people's energy to...
Energy, correct. So the strange thing when Satori and I met, so I was a very technical-based investigator before I met Satori. I love equipment. I love audio. Not psychic at all. Psychic as a bag of rocks. That's what we always say.
Yeah, you were a gear guy.
Yes,
Yep.
big time. And I meet Satori, and we're at a haunted case, and knocking starts happening, footsteps. I'm like, okay, this is strange. So we go on another case the next week, and same thing, footsteps. And I had some, crazy experiences on the teams before TAPS, where, I had these amazing communication sessions through knocking. Yes, knock once for yes, knock twice for no. If you can spell your name, we'll go through the alphabet, knock on a letter.
Yeah,
So,
using Morse code almost. Yeah,
exactly. So go on our next case with Satori, and same thing. I'm like, wow, this is weird. Really rare to have an active case. Really rare to have two cases that have the same activity. So the other TAPS members are like, wait a minute, maybe something's going on with you guys. Go experiment. So okay. So we start experimenting at the next case that we're on. And we think of the spiritualist movement, holding hands, combining energy. I also liked her.
Good pickup line. Yeah. Hey, I want to try this spiritual movement thing. Maybe we'll grab dinner afterwards.
Yep. Yeah. So, and that's why the Ouija board was invented, by the way. It was a dating game. So,
okay.
Just side note.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah, because
me neither.
back then,
Real romantic, this Cody.
the original directions on the back of a Ouija board was to sit knee to knee with your partner, and back then,
Ooh, that's a big-
touching knees was a big thing.
Yeah.
So that's why the Ouija board was invented. But anyway, so
Cody's like an encyclopedia.
so anyway, we're holding hands, and like, okay, is anybody here? And you start hearing footsteps, and we're like, okay, knock once for yes, twice for no, and they do that for a little while, and then we're like, okay, let's go through the alphabet, see if we can spell something. And meanwhile, I'm thinking, okay, somebody's hiding in a closet playing tricks on me, because I've always been taught when something seems too good to be true, it most likely is not. So we start asking more and more questions, and we spell out,
It's like, how is this possible?
how is this
Or
possible? How is this happening? And we're like, okay, this is weird. And I'm not finding any explanation as to how this is happening. So we start implementing that more and more. And I'm afraid to show the people that I've worked with for years now because I'm like, they're going to think we're freaking crazy.
Yeah.
if
Well,
we show
plus
them this.
you're known as the gear guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
You're
I've
the tech
always been
guy
like,
and
yeah, I
you're-
don't
I'm
really.
the
Yeah.
daughter of a famous skeptic paranormal
Yeah.
investigator.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like the worst situation you could be in. So, so, and I didn't really believe in mediums and before that point and psychics, and I just thought they were a dime a dozen, and a lot of cold reading tactics and things like that. So finally, and we started appearing on Ghost Hunters at that point, and we ended up showing your dad this, and he was like, we're going to a case in the middle of nowhere, Alabama or something. He's like, hey, just try that
Nebraska.
thing. Nebraska. Try that thing that you guys do and see if you get any
Some
results.
forgettable middle of the country state.
Yeah. So like, okay.
Yeah.
So we're there, and we do it, and someone comes through and spells out the name Don, and he's looking for Betty, and
He wants Betty to know he's okay.
Betty's okay, and I think the year that he passed away.
Well, last year he remembers.
And we're like, okay, what's her last name? And like, no answer. So I'm like, okay, well, we're in the middle of Nebraska, and there's probably more than one Betty in Nebraska. So how are we going to find this? So we're like, okay, Jay, this is what we got. Good luck. This is, and
Yeah.
just so happens they have a meeting lined up with the old manager of this hotel that we're investigating, and her name is Betty the next day. So they meet with Betty, and we're not part of this scene. So we're off, at lunch or something. And we get this phone call. And
I
we're
get
like,
a text actually
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
I get a text first, and my dad's like, "Where are you? We need you to get here." I was like, "Why?" He goes, "Because Betty's husband Don is who you got."
Oh shit.
To reach out, and we're like, oh no, and you always, because there's a moment where obviously if you're a skeptic, and somebody brings up a name like that, there's going to be a rush of different emotions. We don't want to hurt anybody. This is just what we genuinely got,
Yeah.
And so there was a whole thing, and I remember.
So we ended up
Was she
meeting her.
receptive to it? Like,
Yeah. Oh, big time. Big
Yeah.
time. And she's like, I've been waiting for this for so long. I just wanted to know he was okay. And I was like, well, that's exactly what he said. And she goes, I'm actually wearing his ashes around my neck right now. And I was like, oh my gosh. So, at that point, it still blew us away that this stuff would happen. And then we would, slowly implement it on different cases. I mean, TAPS, Jay built TAPS on the foundation where we don't really use mediums, and we don't consider ourselves mediums.
No,
some
I
people
can't
put
read
that
it,
into
but-
the category as like physical mediumship because everyone in the room can hear what's going on. You can hear the footsteps walk in. You can hear the knocks answering.
it's almost that you're just using yourselves as a tool, just like, one of the physical,
Right.
Absolutely.
tools.
I
Exactly.
think Cody's always had something, and I don't know what role I play into it, but every time we're together, something happens that's a little bit more amplified. And yeah, we've done it on different videos for different people. We've done it at different locations. I mean, that a lot of people know us for it now,
Yeah.
and everybody has their own opinions on it. Until you see it in person, you
Right.
don't really
It's very
know.
controversial for sure.
Well, I
it's
think
very
that goes right back
controversial.
to what we were saying at the beginning of this whole segment is the whole paranormal thing in general is it's all unexplainable.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's like, if you're skeptical about it, what's the difference of this one particular method you use, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we all used to believe the earth was flat at one point.
Yeah.
Everyone used to believe that.
Some still do.
Some still do.
Some
Some
still
still do. So we're always learning new things. And, your dad made a great video the other day, talking about like we never knew that, like bacteria existed until we had microscopes, you know what I mean? So there, there's this whole other realm, at least from our perspective, that we just don't know too much about yet. We can communicate with it, just like the bacteria. People get sick. No idea why they got sick. I mean, in Rhode Island, you had the vampire breakout. People are calling people vampires left and right.
Yeah.
And they just have consumption. You know what I mean? The whole Mercy Brown case. So with this whole paranormal thing, there's just stuff happening. We can communicate with it. We know it's there. We just don't know what exactly is going on.
Science needs to catch up first.
Yeah.
You know?
What's your opinion on like the whole like I guess you call it like the veil theory, like there's, an opposite world happening simultaneously with us now, and if you can pierce that, then you can see bits and pieces of it. What's your opinion on that theory?
Well, The whole veil thinning and things like that. I mean, this would be the time that would happen, right? Getting closer to Halloween. I mean, there's a lot of theories with moon phases and things like that, and that's more Satori's. Satori's like the crystals, and she's more metaphysical than I am for sure.
Our crystals will be in the windows tonight to get that moon energy.
Right.
Yeah.
I definitely believe that there are certain times of year that it seems like we do get more activity, whether that's a veil thinning
That was a question.
or not.
Thanks, Mr. DJ in the chat.
Yes, so I definitely think we get more cases, we get more calls in the fall, whether that's because of Halloween time or not, and the springtime for some reason. Opposite times of year, we get more phone calls. Whether that's veil thinning or not, we're not really sure. I do believe that weather plays a big part in the amount of activity and the experiences you've had. Of course, we have a lot of instances where lightning storms can heighten an activity because we believe the atmosphere is being charged by the lightning. So I think atmospheric conditions can play a big role in the amount of activity that you get.
I believe in what we're figuring out. I don't know what to believe. So what we're finding with what we do is kind of how it's guiding me in that sense. I know there's another place. I know there's another area, because from when we've talked to Spirit, they've said that they go somewhere and they can visit like you're visiting family. It's normal,
it's like you're going out of town. Yeah.
So we know that you can go somewhere else, and they have described sometimes what that place looks like. It's kind of hard to get answers from them. A lot of them say light. They see a lot of light. People are healthy, things like that. Sometimes we've talked to spirits and they've said, be careful, there's a candle right there, and there's no candle. They're like, watch out for my candle. We turn around, there's no candle. So where is this bridge? Like, what are you seeing in is it a different dimension?
Yeah.
How thin is it? That we can break through and kind of talk to you about it, So there's definitely some other place.
Yeah, I mean, they've proven different dimensions exist. Multiple different dimensions exist. Science has proven that, So is this just another one of those, dimensions that we just,
I never
pass once in a while?
I never looked at it that way until we had this one particular guest on, that guy I was talking about before, that had the sleep paralysis and the shadow people and stuff. And his whole thing, he didn't have a near-death experience or a death experience. He had a psychedelic experience, and ever since then, and he was in a paranormal place with paranormal activity. It was a home that he lived in that he actually left because he didn't want to live there anymore because of the paranormal activity. Mm-hmm. And his friend still lived there, and he went back, and he had a psychedelic experience in the house with the paranormal activity. And he said he saw a black ball or being or something come towards him, and ever since that happened, he thinks that was him having the ability to see on the other side of this veil. And ever since then, shit was all weird for him.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was I never heard I guess you hear people talking about the veil thinning, but that when he explained it in such a literal sense like that, I never looked at it that way. So I always ask that with paranormal investigator stuff, because it's such an interesting theory that.
Aren't they experimenting with certain substances?
DMT,
Yeah.
Yep. But the whole mapping this whole dimension. I mean, yeah, there's multiple people there's studies going on where people are put on DMT drips, and everyone's seeing the same thing.
Yeah.
And they don't know each other, and they're able to map out this whole nother world slowly by what people are saying.
And I'm pretty sure psilocybin for therapeutic use is going on the mass ballot this year.
I think you're right.
I think it's already passed in a couple places, but yeah, it's going on the mass ballot this year.
I'm too scared to do something like that and try to map out what I see. I'd be too afraid of what I'd see.
Yeah.
The things that people are seeing are
That's why
creepy.
I'm glad if all we're going to get is knocking noises, because I don't have to see anything.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, we were talking about your reaction videos taught at us is you don't want to see spooky stuff.
No, I am the biggest chicken ever.
I think that's a huge misconception with your industry, is people assume that you're all into seeing spooky stuff, and it seems like you're not interested in seeing spooky stuff.
It's weird because you can tell me, all right, there's this abandoned prison, 50 people were murdered here, you have to go into an abandoned dark tunnel. and investigate. I'd be like, okay, like I'd be
All right,
like, okay,
bet.
send me in. Go,
Yeah.
And then somebody will go, okay, this is a haunted house attraction. You have to walk in. There's probably 50 people waiting.
A 15-year-old kid's going to jump out behind a bush, and you're going to hate every second of it.
Have a chainsaw. I'd be like, no, like you can't.
Yeah.
No, and I don't know
don't
why he
ask me,
came
Ken.
up with this idea, but he was like, we're gonna put a camera on you.
Because it's great
We're gonna
entertainment.
follow our YouTube. If you don't follow our YouTube,
Cut to this
Yeah.
that's just his personal collection. That's just for him. Yeah.
Yeah, give it a plug. We'll put the link in the show notes too. But what's the YouTube page title?
Yeah, so it's Cody and Satori, the
Yep.
Paranormal Couple.
Perfect.
And
we just started haunted house walkthroughs. It's going to get more intense next Tuesday. It's going to be another haunted house. The Tuesday after that, another haunted house, and they just get worse and worse, like in the best way, but worse.
or funny. Or
Funnier and
Yeah.
funny.
Worse for you, funnier for everybody else. Yeah.
Like there was, I swear there was one where I literally grabbed a guy's arm because I thought he was going to
She
actually
did.
get me. Like there was, and I apologized. And what's funny is a lot of these people have reached out to me since walking through their haunted houses, and they're like, I was the one that scared you in the room with the dangling hands. And I'm like, thanks. And they're like, I want to let you know I'm a fan. And if you're watching, thank you. They're like, I'm a fan. I wish I could have talked to you. I'm like, oh, I wish we could too. Can you tell the pig in the bathroom that I'm sorry I grabbed his arm? And she's like, yeah, I'll let so-and-so know.
Yeah, sorry, I
Like,
kicked him.
Yeah.
I know, but it's so, I feel so bad afterwards because I'm screaming and there's other people here for these experiences and
that's
I'm ruining it.
That's great.
Yeah, it's bad. But follow our YouTube if you want to laugh.
Yeah. I'm excited to watch those.
Yeah.
So I guess the biggest thing to remember right now, we'll put all the links to where to find you guys in the show notes, but the 26th is the Haunted Objects, the immersive show at the Alley Theater in Middleborough, Mass. Still tickets available. We'll put the info on how to get tickets for that in the show notes as well.
Thank you.
Anything else specific that you wanted to mention or plug or talk about?
Not really. I mean, if you're planning on, if you want to sit in a room and talk about some really seriously creepy items and stories, come check out this live show. Like, we're going to be talking about some serious topics, and you want to see some things in person, you're gonna get up close and personal with some objects.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep. And
Yeah.
if for some reason you can't make it to that show, if you go on Facebook, the Paranormal Couples Haunted Museum, we're usually posting where we're going to be and
Or on
videos.
Instagram.
Instagram,
Cody
both of our
DesBiens,
names.
Satori Hawes.
Yep, the verified accounts because there's some fake ones. So so look for the check mark there. But yeah, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Yep.
Yeah, we'll link all that stuff in the show notes, and when there's updates on a physical location or upcoming events, we'll always share them here for you too.
Thank
I appreciate
you.
it. Thank you.
Thank you both so much for coming on.
Yeah,
It
this
was a
was
lot
fun.
of fun.
Thank
good.
you.
Thanks for having us.
Hopefully we didn't
Appreciate
bore
it.
you too much.
No, not at all.
no.
After that video, I'm never going to sleep again.
Yeah, no, and if in the future, if
There's a bin
yeah.
in the basement. My mom gave my daughter a doll years ago when we just kind of put it down there because it never did anything. But you just look at it, you know it's looking back at you.
Oh, yeah.
And we just gently placed it in some blankets and put it in a bin,
Yeah.
and I'm going to go home and throw that in the
We'll
woods.
put you in the doll and clown room.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we'd love to have you on again in the future if there's other stuff you want to plug or whatever.
Sure.
We'll
Oh,
try to make it happen
absolutely.
again.
We'll bring
Appreciate
more
it.
objects for you every time.
That
Alright,
sounds
awesome.
great.
Okay.
All right, everybody, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week. We got 2 more spookier episodes, obviously, for the month of Halloween coming up. See ya.